Today on the channel, we're going to compare two quads that you guys have been asking about for quite some time. What's up guys? Today we're going to compare the Moz7 with the Crocodile75 V3. We're going to talk about the differences between these two quads because I know there's been a lot of confusion out there in the FPV community about which one you should get and which one has better options, motors, frames, interior space, GoPro mounts, O3 options, and all of that. We're going to cover that in this video. I'm going to go through each of these quads meticulously. I'm also going to show you some flight footage from each quad so you can get a better understanding. And by the end of this video, I'm going to talk about which one I'm leaning towards as a favorite. So let's go ahead and get started with the first of both of these quads, the Crocodile75 V3. Okay, so if you're watching this video, good for you because we're going to get super specific in this video, but I'm going to try not to bore you. I'm going to give you some super good information on what the difference is between the V3 Croc V75 and the Moz7. I've flown both of these and I've flown pretty much all of the popular 7 and 7.5 inch quads out there and reviewed them on the channel. So if you want to go back and check them out, you can check out the full reviews of each of these. But today we're going to give you some solid comparison of what these two quads are all about. I'm going to give you the reason for the purpose of the build of both of these quads. I've been working with Geprc for almost 10 years now. And they take my feedback pretty seriously. So much so that you'll see that some of my suggestions ended up being on the Moz7 with this final design. So I do test and give feedback to them, and they get my notes, and we talk about things as things are being produced for Geprc. So the first thing I want to show you, most importantly, is the weight of both of these quads. And that will also give you an idea of the difference, the first difference that we're going to talk about between the Moz7 and the Crocodile75 V3. The Crocodile75 V3 weighs in at 674 grams without a battery. The Moz7 weighs in at 794.7 grams without a battery. And also the very popular iFlight Chimera V3 weighs in with the straps on there, just give it take a few grams, 727.5 grams. Now, first off, when we get into this kind of comparison here, I have to tell you the difference, the major differences between the two quads that you're looking at on the bench here. And this is going to be kind of important information for you if you're deciding which one you want to buy. This Moz7, it was made for more of an industrial purpose, carrying heavier cameras. It has a larger power system on here. It has a shorter truck bed, which we're going to talk about. That's the battery from space from front to back here on this long body design. And this one also has a larger wheelbase. So this one's built lighter. It's also built to go further than the Moz7 in my opinion because of the lighter build. Every single gram counts when we're talking about long range. And for the motor setup here, we're also talking about low kV on here for 6S battery setup for using Lions on both of these. If you're trying to carry a heavier camera and you're say in maybe a quick shoot situation when you want to go extra fast, the way you're going to do that is not fly a Lion, you're going to fly a LiPo, and in that instance I would use the Moz7 for a heavier camera and more speed. Now the wheelbase on the Moz7 is 320 millimeters, and the wheelbase on the Croc75 V3 is 342 millimeters. The Croc75 V3 has a whopping 6.5 to 6.75 inch usable battery space from front to back, from the battery plug to the front of the GoPro mount. And for the Moz7, we have around 5.75 inches there. Now, what does it matter whether this one's a little shorter truck body battery space here? Because of camera room here, once you put your large battery on there, say you're running something like the iFlight full send battery, or you're running one of my favorite Upgrade Energy batteries, these are probably the best 30-minute battery out there for the O3 setup. If you're running a GoPro, you're probably going to get around 25 minutes for both of these quads with a GoPro and something like this. This is a 6S 9AH battery. We also have 6S 10AH battery as well, and this one is going to get you that full 30-minute flight time. You also have to be flying at kind of a lower throttle, at your lowest throttle point to keep the nose up. We talk about that a lot in our long range videos, but this, you can see right here, there's not a lot of space. There's about maybe not even a 1/4 inch of space between the GoPro mount and where the battery sits comfortably to the back of the quad there. So you're gonna have less room to tilt your GoPro to match your O3 in the front or your analog camera. So that's something to think about there. Less space for the camera on this one. This truck body is a little bit longer, probably giving us an extra 1/2 inch, almost 3/4 inch there. Yeah, about 3/4 inch extra carbon space there between the front of this camera mount versus the Moz7. So this truck bed's a little more accommodating to a camera on the front of the quad. And our friend here, the Chimera V3, this one also has a super long body design with around 6.5 inches of usable space for the battery to sit on. So right there, I took my GoPro off, my mount off here, but you still have the extra bit of carbon there like we talked about with the Crocodile V3. So look at that, that's around 1 inch of extra space before you get here to your GoPro mount. So it's going to give you a little more tilt there for the Chimera V3. Now these are my most used batteries right now. This company is called Upgrade Energy, and they are also domestic in the US. I freaking love this company. These packs, they're called dark lithium batteries. They are around the $200 price point, which is getting up there for a pack, but this battery right here is 10AH, which means it's 10,000 milliamp, and it's getting me around a 30-minute flight time with my Crocodile V3, and also close to 28 minutes with my Moz7. So these two packs are my most coveted packs right now. I love them. They have great energy and burst. It almost feels like I'm flying a lipo. So you know, if you want to have more power and do kind of like freestyle and maybe even lift a heavier camera, if you want more power in the motors, fly lipo. If you need more throttle burst, if you want to fly long range, fly with a Lion. Now this pack over here is my 6S2P battery full SIN from iFlight. This is an 8,000 milliamp battery. It is labeled wrong. It says 4,500 milliamp, but this one will get me close to 23 minutes flight time to 25 minutes flight time with this without a GoPro. With a GoPro, you're probably looking at maybe 15 minutes even with this battery. With this one, you're going to get around 24 minutes with a GoPro, and this one should get you upwards of 26 minutes with a GoPro on board. Now that you know the long body situation where the Crocodile75 V3 is longer, you can see it here in this video. It is definitely a little bit longer, has a little more battery space on there, but it also has more venting in the side skirts down the side. These appear to be kind of a different type of plastic, whereas this is more of an injection molded type of plastic. They also have a cover for the O3 in the back, and there's two additions for the Moz7 that the Crocodile doesn't have. We have kind of a cover piece here, and I mentioned this before in my original review. What I like about all of these covers is the fact that they are singular pieces in here. They're not one long cover that kind of like a Nazgul, it has the whole piece comes off. These come off in two separate pieces here, so if you want to take one off and fly without say your FC covered up or your O3 covered up, you can definitely remove these pieces and fly without them. So that's kind of a nice option. But what I talked about with Geprc and what I would like to see differently in comparison to the iFlight Chimera7 or the V3 is that we didn't have any cooling on the Crocodile75. This one came without any type of extra heat sink on there for the O3, and if you're flying long distances, you don't want your VTX and your 4K camera recording at the same time. The two hottest components in the world stacked together, overheating and stopping your image transmission. That was going to be kind of an important thing for me for flying super long range. So that's one thing that maybe I would like to see with the V4 of the Croc 75 coming out that the Moz7 has. So if you look right here, you can see a little bit of kind of a hole through the side there, and there is some vertical fins right here. This is the heatsink that they added to the Moz7. So the Moz7 also, not only does it have a heatsink, it also has a trapdoor right here. So you can take this little M2 screw off right here, and you can gain access to binding up your O3 with your goggles. So this just gives a little more protection here, but you can also take that off and leave it off if you want to. Just giving you options. And also, if you look at the front of both of these quads, you'll notice that the Croc75, the whole front end of this is all TPU. This is kind of debatable right here, which one of these O3 cameras is going to give you better footage, and we're going to take a look at some footage coming up. But in my experiences, giving too much of a hard mount in the front, where more TPU and say silicon dampening, similar to the Chimera7 7 has a little more dampening. But this one also brings in some TPU on the side, so not only they give you a little more protection here as far as durability goes, this one is just all TPU all the way up in the front. And that really kind of boils down to like personal opinion, which one you like better. I know some people like the way that aircraft aluminum looks. It looks super nice, and that's the thing about the Moz7. It is a more industrial, probably maybe more durable version of a 7-inch. Now let's talk about the back of both of these aircrafts. They have different designs. Both of them are TPU mounts on the very back with the GPS, the XT60, and the side-to-side mount on the Moz7 for the antennas, and the vertical mount for the Crocodile75 V3. It really doesn't make a difference to me which way these are mounted. That's not a big deal for me as far as my range goes. I do maybe prefer the side-to-side mount better, which is what they ended up doing on the Moz7, making more changes from the Croc75. But I don't think as far as how far people are flying, it really matters. Now they both also have M10 GPS. They have the same exact GPS back here. This one's angled a little bit flatter along with the quad body, whereas this one has more of a tilted angle. Both of these are fixed position. They're not changeable. The Chimera7 has 2 bolts on each side, so you can kind of move it up and down, or you can fold it down out of the way for travel. Another thing that I talked about with Geprc is the fact that I don't like the way this tilt is, and the Chimera7 has the same thing. And when this one came out, you know, this is probably about 30 degrees worth of tilt back here for the XT60, which makes you, it forces you to bring your battery back further if you have a short cable. But most of the large batteries have a pretty long cable. So on the next version, next iteration they came out with, this one only has a 15% type of tilt to it, and it's less drastic than this one. So this one kind of matches up with the Chimera7, whereas this one has way less tilt and allows you to have a shorter battery cable, which really helps. Now both of these quads, they have the same exact antennas on here for the DJI-03 models. These are the Momoto 5.8G left-hand circular polarized. They are RP-SMA connectors on here, and they are 120 millimeters. You also get 2 of these in the box. And now this is where we're getting into the power system. They both have the same flight controller, and they have both with 50 amp ESCs on here. These are the BLHeli 4-in-1, BLHeli 32 span ESCs, and they're both running different motors. And when the Moz7 came out, I was like, oh wow, these are really nice looking, and they do look more industrial. You can see they're taller. They also have some maybe a little bit more coils inside to accommodate the larger motor size. And these are 2806.5 1350 kVs on the Crocodile75. This Moz7 has 2809, just a little bit larger, and these are 1250 kV. So they went larger, but they also went a little lower kV. Hopefully that would give us a little bit longer flight time, but more power. What it ended up doing for this particular frame, since it is heavier, it did kind of give us a little less flight time in our testing with the Moz7 versus the Crocodile. So these motors may be a little bit more efficient for long range flying. These will be better for lifting heavier cinema style cameras if you're doing that with a 7.5 inch. They also both use the same propellers. These are the HQ75 3.7 by 3s. And now you can see both of the GoPro mounts here. You can see that they also used collars around the M3 bolts, and they're kind of red anodized aluminum collars. I like that this has the collars around it. The washers really help keep this down. If you have a hard crash and your GoPro kind of bends, it's not as likely to rip this off. This version has kind of a little bit extra head on top of the M3 to accommodate that. This one also looks like it's been beefed up just a little bit more. Both of these quads have replaceable arms. They are both 6 millimeters thick, and you'll notice that the Moz7 over here has quite a bit more TPU protecting the motor and the arm here. It also has this part which juts out from the front to give you a little more frontal crash protection here, whereas this one kind of has the standard, almost looks like an 80s guitar to protect the motor bell in a frontal crash or a side crash. This one is made to be lighter. I mean, you can see right here that this just is way more design concept for trimming the fat off of a long-range quad. So this one again is for more industrial purposes and made to be more durable on the Moz7. And now we're looking at a bottom view of both of these quads. They can accommodate a 30 by 30 stack. You also have some different size holes here for accommodating the O3 or the Caddx Vista or even the Air units on here. You also have replaceable arms like we mentioned before, and we have the 3 millimeter beveled 3K carbon fiber on both of these quads. Now, where they trimmed off a little bit of weight again on the Crocodile75 V3 is the top plate. This is 2.5 millimeter, whereas the top plate on the Moz7 is a 3 mil top plate. Now you're looking at the top view of both of these quads, and I wanted to show you the differences for this dead cat style that they have. They have kind of swept back arms in the front. They have sort of almost straight ahead, but not quite. The Moz7 has a little less angle on these quads, moving these propellers back a little bit from the O3 camera. Now, if you're flying with the Croc75 V3 here, there's a little more angle and tilt and forward blade here, almost in front of the O3 camera. So at this point, certain reflection from the sun or a little bit of, it will cause just kind of a little bit of glare, you'll see show up every once in a while in the O3 footage, in my testing at least. And I know top plate release is pretty important to a lot of people out there, so if you're wondering how much hardware is on top of both of these, I'm going to tell you there are 12 bolts on top of the Crocodile75 V3. There are 8 bolt top plate release on the Moz7, so quite a few less bolts. They're both recessed hardware, which is pretty cool. I do like the red anodized aluminum kind of collars, little washers around those bolts for the Croc7. But they also have a difference in design as far as TPU back. It comes over top of the carbon here on the 75, whereas this one, the TPU back mount goes underneath the carbon here. So that's one thing. So when you remove this top plate, you're just going to grab it and pull forward, and that comes right out of this little slot right here. And you can set that to the side, and now you can see how much space you have inside your Croc75. There is quite a bit of front room right here, so I like that I have this extra bit of space all in here for the Croc. We also have kind of a little bit of space back here to add maybe, say, a larger crossfire receiver. They have a receiver tray here for my Nano. I would recommend putting the Nano Diversity crossfire receiver on there so you have 2 different antennas, which a little bit of diversity on a long-range quad is really what you want. But I love the amount of room here. So if you're going to add your remote ID module, that should be enough room inside this quad right here to be able to add remote ID. As far as the Moz7, let's check out interior space of the Moz7. Not as much room in here. So if you look from front to back, it's pretty well jammed up with capacitor, the Span F7 flight controller. It's a dual stack, so it has 2 separate parts to it. The ESCs are just underneath here, and again, they're both rocking the same exact flight controller. So no difference there for the flight controller. They do have a TPU mount here for the buzzer. It has a full-size buzzer, and again, I wish both of these quads had an external buzzer, which means it has its own little battery and it would beep for 2 days. But this one, if the battery gets yanked off in a crash, which most of the time these batteries are so big they do, this will not beep once it becomes unplugged. So one thing that I wish they would change on the next versions of these 7-inch quads, they are meant to go long range. So whenever you're flying long range, you got to have an external battery. Now, external beeper. So this nano right here, it fits to the side, but it doesn't have its own little tray here. They do seem to have some type of tray down in the very bottom front there, but way less space. But you also have aircraft aluminum protection here in the front of this quad, so a little more protected space, but quite a bit less than the Croc75. I mean, look at the difference here as far as storage space goes between both of these quads. It's a tremendous amount more storage on the quad, the Croc75 versus the Moz7. So yeah, working on the Moz7 is going to be a little quicker, but the Crocodile75 V3 is going to give you more kind of space inside this fuselage area. That's kind of nice and maybe beneficial down the road, again, for your remote ID if you choose to add that on there. You can also see the difference here in the truck bed, as we call it, for battery space between this front GoPro mount. This is where the bolts are on the front of the Moz, and this is where the GoPro mounts are for the back space of where the edge of the mount comes. And you can see that we do have quite a bit more space here all the way to the back. Again, almost a full inch of space on the Croc75, extra space for the battery mount. Now, what a lot of people might not have noticed in this kind of comparison yet is this, which is very interesting. On the Croc75 frame on the left, we've got a little bit of TPU coverage on the side of that piece of carbon up front. Here, the carbon hangs out on the Moz7 off the side, so if you have a frontal crash, your carbon top plate is more exposed in the front, whereas the V3 Croc75 has kind of the TPU comes up over it and covers it right here. So for a frontal crash, this might actually save this from cracking in this area if you have something for things to bounce off of right here. So that's kind of a cool feature too, as far as the TPU front mount. Now let's go ahead and talk about the flight characteristics of both the Crocodile75 V3 and the Moz7. Now, I talked about the Moz7 in the very first of that review. We did a flight test with the dark energy, the dark lithium upgrade energy batteries, and I said this flies like, even though it's a Li-ion, it flies like a LiPo. It has a great power to weight ratio with that battery, and it feels great. You can freestyle that almost, a mild freestyle. 7s are not really great for freestyle, but I feel like with a LiPo, you could get extreme speed with the Moz7. It will go faster than the Croc75. So if you're wanting to do race car stuff, drift cars, motorcycle chases, downhill type of stuff for mountain biking or snowboarding, go for the Moz7. It's also the more industrial application quad, which is going to be probably a little bit tougher in those crashes. It has a little bit thicker top plate on it, and even though this one's been lightened up for long range, it has a 2.5mm top plate versus the 3-inch top plate. It also doesn't have any holes on the top of this, as you can see as well. This design is a solid top plate, just a few mounting holes there for extra accessories, but this one has the honeycomb holes all the way down. And when I'm building and working on the 75 here, sometimes these bolts will drop through these holes. They're just big enough to fit an M3 bolt through that hole, so that's one thing to think about there. You can just shake it out if you already have all the screws on there, but one thing to think about there. Now, as far as kind of range goes and the antenna setup in the back, I know I talked about that before. It doesn't really matter that much, side to side or vertical types of antenna setups. Most people prefer the side to side mount, which is going to have two antennas side by side. And again, these are both the same style antennas, so it's either like this or the vertical. It doesn't matter to me, honestly. I don't go far enough out for it to make a difference. If you're really wanting to get some extreme range, I feel like the horizontal mount with one sticking out to the side and the other side may get you the better range, because no matter where the quad's facing at any given time, those antennas are always going to be above where the quad is, unless you do a full flip and one gets behind the quad somehow. But for long range purposes, you're mostly cruising. So as far as longer flight time, Croc75. Heavier lifter is going to be the Moz7. As far as both of them tune wise, they're both rocking the same exact flight controller, just a little different power to weight ratio on both of these, and they both get great footage. So it doesn't matter which one you pick as far as which one gets better footage. I think they both get great footage, but I feel like this one's going to have a little bit of light reflection on the super sunny days because the props are a little bit further forward here, giving a little more glare to the 03, whereas this one has the props recessed back just a little bit further. So some changes I would like to see in the 75 coming up versus the newly designed Moz7. They took some of our considerations in the comparison and the notes that we gave them. They added the cooling back here for the 03. I would like to see that as well, and maybe more of a dead cat with the new Croc. Maybe the Croc V4 has a little less angle on the front arms, making them straighter across, because that for filming purposes makes it much better application for a professional film. But now let's go ahead and just give some final thoughts on both of these quads before I let you go. So I would like to say thanks to Geprc for sending me this cool hat. It is a snapback, and I'll be wearing this one coming up. This is not given to me because I'm a sponsor or something like that for these videos. This is not my sponsor by any means. They only send us quads for review, and for the past almost 10 years I've been working with them, they've never paid me directly for a video. They've never ever paid me. So if you like the information in this video, the research that I've done over the years, and kind of a lot of it all summed up in this video, please do use one of my links down below if you're looking to buy either like the Moz7 or the Crocodile75 V3, because it would definitely help the channel. And I hope you appreciate this information. And I've been meaning to make this video for a while because people were asking me a lot of questions on each separate review video. So finally I have it here all summed up in one video. And you know, coming up, maybe we'll do some more comparison between the iFlight Chimera as well versus both of these. But in this video I wanted to specifically matchup, a big comparison of the Moz7 and the Crocodile75. It's interesting to me that the Crocodile75 V3 cost, how mine's sitting here, $774.99, and the Moz7's about $40 cheaper. Right now that one's $734.99 with TBS Crossfire on there and the 03. So you can get them cheaper. I mean, if you want to go for the analog versions, that's going to get you closer to the $500 range. But a lot of these 7-inch and the 7.5-inch quads are around the $400, $500, $600, $700 range. And it really comes down to what you want on yours. If you want to eliminate the GoPro and you just want to come back with some good, decent, stabilized 4K video, go for the DJI 03, because at the end of the day, if you lose a GoPro flying long range while you're miles out, that's $400 or $500 right there. An 03 cost a couple $100. So yeah, I've had complete yard sales with 7-inch before, and that's one of the reasons why an external beeper is so important, that I definitely suggest wiring one of those up to the flight controller, because once these batteries hit something at about 60-70 miles an hour, stuff's going to break and this is going to fly off. So if you want to find your gear and your GoPro, if you're flying with your GoPro, you definitely want to have that external beeper on there. And that's another thing that I would like to see coming up for the V4 Crocodile. I'd also like to see some 03 cooling and a little less angle in the arms there for the dead cat. But other than that, they're both super great quads. I do really enjoy them a lot, and I think if you get either one of these quads, you'll be happy with either one. Yeah, and a lot of times when I'm going to fly them, I don't really think about like maybe this one flies faster and this one's going to fly more efficient. I just like both of these quads. I really do. I like both of these frames. They have great things about both of them. This one is lighter, and I feel like this one could be a better range flyer. This one's made to kind of rip, like this one rips balls on a lipo. It will freestyle almost like a 5-inch because it's so incredibly fast. You got to go watch Joshua Bardwell's video on his, where he was ripping around his yard. It was pretty amazing what he did with the Moz7. So he's getting to be a much better pilot these days. So thumbs up to you, Joshua, for your pilot skills really leveling up. I'm happy to see that. And I'm happy to see that the Moz7 can rip. And I just knew it would. If you go back and look at our flight test on the Moz7, you'll see that this thing is super fast with the dark lithium Li-ion pack on there. Just incredible power and speed. This is all about power and speed, the Moz7. Lightweight and long range for the Croc75. I think that one's the choice if you want to fly some range flying. But yeah, I love them both. And again, if you want to use our links down below, I'd appreciate it that you use those links for all the years and research and development and testing and just obsessed attention to 7-inch on my channel. I love long range, and this is a great place for finding out information, true and tested long range information, because hey, we fly out in the mountains of Oregon, and we like to get some distance, and you need a good solid connection, and VTX, transmitter, antenna setup, all that stuff. You need it all really locked in out here if you're going to do any range flying. It's treacherous. In some places we fly, there is no recovery, so you have to really hope that you get your aircraft back. But that's what's so fun about flying long range or range in general. You're going to take that little chance over the top of a river or a canyon or things like that, but these machines will 90% of the time come home, and that's what it's all about. It's a Christmas miracle when you make it back and you land on your landing pad with any drone, really. But that's the fun of flying drones. And again, please do join our Discord and check out our link for Facebook, because we do an event now where you can come out and see us fly drones. You can fly with us, you can meet me, make new friends, and just check out what everybody brings out to the meet. There's also kind of a mini swap meet at these meetings. We have one coming up in the end of October. It's going to be a Halloween edition, so you can dress up in your costume, come out, and the best costume is going to win a quad. So we're going to give away a quad for the next FPV West event coming up at the end of October, probably the weekend before Halloween. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you enjoyed this thorough, in-depth comparison of the Moz7 and the Crocodile75 V3. Guys, I'm Justin Davis, and I will definitely see you on the next one. Take care, and keep them airborne, guys.